Howdy, folks. Welcome back to another episode of Tactically Inappropriate. And today we're going to be interviewing my good friend, Tucker Carlson. I have my co host, Chris Smith, with me and Josh Cobb. Tucker, thank you for joining us. The first question I want to ask you is how do you think Donald Trump is doing as president right now? And do you think we're going to see any follow through with any of the promises made during the election campaign?
Well, I'll take the second question first. First of all, thanks a lot for having me. I can't I can't forecast the future. I do think that, in general, politicians have trouble following through on their promises. It's the nature of the business, and especially the president, who is bombarded not just with domestic problems, but with, potential wars seem to pop up every week or so. So there's like a lot going on. It's hard to keep any politician's attention. I do think social media help a lot. I think there are key members of this administration who pay attention to what their voters think as expressed on social media. I don't think they're on Twitter all day long, but I mean, I think they pay attention. So if, for example, you promise to release the Epstein files and then you don't, which is what happened, you can be certain that people will remember that and they'll pipe up occasionally to remind you. So that increases the chances of follow through. That's my hope. And I think it's true, by the way. In previous administrations that I've watched, like they'll say something and then no one kind of remembers to ask whatever happened to that.
So,
to answer your first question, I think Trump is doing really well. I remain deeply concerned that this administration and country will be sidetracked by another pointless foreign war. And I think there are people pushing very hard to make sure that happens. And it's our job to push back against them because America has a lot of problems that are very serious but solvable. And we could help to solve them, I think, if we weren't, bombing some place in the Middle East that has nothing to do with us at all,
Yeah, I can see that.
mhm,
Do you think that Trump's intentions are pure? People either love Trump or they hate him. It's like a cult following or a cult hatred of him. There's not a lot of in between.
right.
If you say something bad about him, his followers just go off on you. And if you say
Yep.
nothing good, the left just goes completely nuts. With that being said, do you think that his true intentions are good?
Well, I mean, I feel like I'm in a good spot to answer because I know him well. I love Trump. I don't worship him as a god because I have a god.
Mhm.
So, I mean, if I disagree with Trump, I want to be, and I think I have been willing to say so. I think his instincts are superb. I think he can feel lying at like 100 yards. I think he's extraordinarily brave for a U.S. president, which is why he faced at least 2 assassination attempts in his last campaign. So I think he has a lot of essential qualities. I do think it's very important to remember and to say out loud, Trump's an extraordinary person, of course, but if it weren't Trump, we would have another president like this because the system itself, has reached the end of its useful life. And I don't mean democracy or the republic that the Constitution prescribes. I mean the post-war order where America runs the world unchallenged or is in the middle of a Cold War with Russia or whatever. Like the world that all of us have grown up in with a massive federal bureaucracy and independent agencies that answer to nobody and where our whole focus is fighting some foreign foe, like that has kind of reached the end. We can't afford it anymore. We're exhausted by it. It hasn't helped our country that much, or it's been at best a mixed blessing. And so if it wasn't Trump, we would have another president who was, going to face the reality that we need to make some pretty basic changes in our orientation. So this was going to be a painful, tumultuous period, no matter what, as far as I'm concerned, like no matter what. And I think Trump's instincts are good. I think his intentions are good. I think he's like got a kind of a basic decency about him that his personality sometimes obscures, but it's real.
Mhm.
And I'm happy Trump is president.
Mhm. Mhm. Do you think social media has had a lot to do with that? Because people are fed up, and we've seen a lot of lies from all the politicians, and a lot of the politicians that surround themselves with Trump. He's surrounded himself with some establishment people like Lindsey Graham. He flip flops all the time, but in my opinion, I can't stand Lindsey Graham. But he's put some establishment people in place. And it's kind of scary. He's shook up things a lot as well, but putting those guys in place that have just been in politics for years, it puts a little doubt out there.
Yeah, I mean, the problem with a guy like Lindsey Graham, who I know well and is very charming for whatever it's worth, but not just him or Tom Cotton or Roger Wicker or any of these guys, is that, it's not that they're not dumb. I don't think they're all evil at all, but I think we can all smell the problem with them is that America is not their number one concern at all. That's not what they're really worried about. They're worried about some foreign country or somebody who's paying them to worry about some foreign country or some specific issue, but they're not on a gut level concerned about America and the fact that like our life expectancy is in decline. The suicide rate is all-time high. Over 100,000 people die of drug abuse every year. Your kids can't afford a house. Like, you guys are young. Can you afford a house? Let me answer for you. No, you can't.
No.
It's like, that's a disaster. And do you really think Roger Wicker is like laying awake at night trying to like figure out how to, fix any of that? Of course not. He's worried about Gaza or Ukraine or something. And so that's the core problem. People like that, again, I'm not calling them evil. I'm just saying that their orientation isn't on a gut level all about America, all about the people they actually lead. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really immoral. And you shouldn't have people like that in power. Why does Trump surround himself with people like that? He definitely does. And people who are pro-America as well. I mean, it's a mix. It's a stew. I think the calculation is like you bring all sides in and then you make the decision. I personally think, I've said this many times in public and private, you don't want bad people around you. You just don't. I mean, I've got a staff of 40 people. It's really small. If we had a really bad person on staff, I would fire him because I think it's like yeast. It poisons the whole loaf. Like, no bad people, no liars.
Yeah.
That's how I run my life. I wouldn't have dinner with someone I thought was really bad. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I just respectfully disagree with that tactic. And the last thing I'll say is that guys like Lindsey Graham, who, once again, I like personally because he's hilarious, but a guy like that never sleeps. Like, he's constantly pushing for war with Iran. Like, he wakes up, war with Iran, war with Russia, war with some country we've got literally nothing to do with. Mm-hmm. And that's what gets him off. Or I think he's also being paid to do that. And whatever the reason, whatever the motive, he never stops. He doesn't take a break. It's not like he takes, it's Easter, I'm going to stop plotting to have a war with Iran. No, there's no such thing. He's relentless. And they all are. It's very weird. And it's hard to fight guys like that, you know?
It was hilarious when Lindsey Graham was interviewed by Sean Hannity after the Biden and Trump debate. And then a few minutes later, we're all friends with Matt Gaetz. He was our congressman for a long time. We know Matt pretty well. And Sean interviewed Matt right after that, and Sean had said something about Lindsey Graham not wanting to start a war, and Matt said that'd be the only war Lindsey Graham wasn't.
No, Lindsey, like a lot of people without children and no kind of future to preserve or live for, he's very into killing. And I would just remind everybody, if you're a Christian, that's not allowed. You're not allowed to worship death or killing, hurting other people. That's not our religion at all. And I don't know, in this country, unfortunately, you've had a lot of preachers over the years who sort of lie about that. This is a just war. We need to go. No, there's no killing that Jesus approves of that I'm aware of, unless I'm totally misreading the New Testament. So that's really evil as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Period.
I like where you stand on that. I agree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
yes,
absolutely.
Now, do you think a lot of people are going to get held accountable in this new administration? And, like you mentioned the Epstein files not too long ago. They said they were going to release the Epstein files, and just nothing's came of it. And we keep seeing things like that. COVID-19 happened, and we know our government had a lot to do with COVID-19 now. Do you think that anyone's actually going to get held accountable, or are we just going to keep having headline after headline after headline where it's just clickbait? Oh, we're going to do this. We're going to do this. But do you think they're actually going to do anything?
Well, clearly there's a lot of pressure not to. I mean, John F. Kennedy was murdered 62 years ago, and we still, despite many promises over many decades, have not gotten every file on that subject, not even close. So there's huge pressure to keep things secret that we have every right to know. 9/11. Why are 9/11 files classified? I would love to know. And the net effect is that normal people like you or me, or I think probably most Americans at this point, don't trust anything the government does. They have no credibility at all. They have no moral authority at all. And that doesn't work. Like, your government has to have some credibility with the people it represents, that it governs. It has to have some moral authority. You have to feel like, it's wrong not to pay your taxes. It's wrong to break the law. And I think we're getting to a point where people are like, why would I pay my taxes? You know what I mean? So Ukraine can send more trainee soldiers into war with Russia that I don't support, or whatever it's being spent, sex changes in prison on MS-13, illegal aliens, or whatever. It's also grotesque. And there's so much lying that people are going to refuse to restrain their own behavior. Decent people will refuse to participate in the program, which is basically voluntary. Like, that's the government. I could try to overthrow them, but I'm not going to, because I think they're basically trying to do the right thing. If people stop thinking that, things fall apart. So I think it's really important to get some level of transparency and accountability, just like you would in your own house. If you catch your kid with, like, I don't know, a grocery bag full of $100 bills, you're like, where'd the money come from? Right. And he's like, I'm not going to tell you. You'd be like, actually, you are going to tell me. And if I have to chain you to the freaking radiator and take my belt and beat you with it, I'm going to find out, because we can't move forward without finding out, because otherwise we won't have a relationship. I mean, like, what?
Why do you yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's it.
Okay. Why do you think we're so restricted on what information we can know? Why do you think everything's hidden? You think it's, self-motivated by people involved, or I mean,
this video is brought to you by Firearms Direct Club. Okay, here's the deal. It's basically Costco, but for guns. If you don't know, Costco doesn't really make money selling groceries. They make all their money off of their membership fee, and then they sell the groceries for cost. Firearms Direct Club does the same thing with guns, optics, and a bunch of other accessories. With Firearms Direct Club, you're saving over $100 every time you buy an optic, and way more every time you buy a firearm. Which means that if you purchase one thing a year, you're probably justifying the cost of the entire membership, and if you purchase anything more than that, you're just saving money. So if you go over to firearmsdirectclub.com, you can get a 2-day free trial where you can get in there and check out the entire catalog of items and compare the pricing. Usually the membership fee is $15.99 a month, but today if you use code FAT when you get signed up, it's going to knock it down to $12.99 a month for the lifetime of your membership. So head over to firearmsdirectclub.com, get your free trial started, and start saving money right now.
Well, I think there are probably a lot of reasons. Bureaucracies derive their power from secrecy. Mm-hmm. They know you don't, therefore they're in charge and you're not. I mean, that's the key power bureaucracies have. Government has is information. Yep. So there's that. But fundamentally, I think when you commit a crime, you try and hide the evidence. Yep. I think it's as simple as that. I mean, these are crimes. What Epstein did were crimes. He did it with the help of the U.S. and at least one other government, it looks like to me, with their intel agencies. Very obvious that John F. Kennedy was murdered with the support of some people in the CIA, not the whole CIA, but clearly some people. And the Bobby Kennedy assassination also raised a lot of questions, as does, certain elements of 9/11. I think Muslims, Al-Qaeda fanatics flew planes into the buildings. That's what it looks like to me. Yeah. I don't understand how Building 7 fell down. I really don't. And I do. And maybe the explanation that it just caught fire because of burning airplane parts or something, and then it collapsed in what looked like a controlled demolition. Maybe that's true. I don't know. Yeah. But that was not even addressed in the 9/11 report. There was no mention of it.
9/11 just accomplished so much for the people that were in power, because they made money off the military industrial complex.
Exactly.
They got us a war. We got the Patriot Act, which is the most unconstitutional legislation I think that's ever been passed.
Exactly.
There was so much to accomplish with it. That's why it's so scary. And they made you seem unpatriotic if you didn't agree with it. That if you say anything, you're just a crazy conspiracy theorist.
Yeah. Well, but I was there for all that. It affected my life as it did the life of every American who was alive, was an adult when that happened. I had a friend who died that day. I'm not unique in that. Many people feel the way that I do as a 55-year-old. That was the pivot point in American history during my lifetime. And so you're not going to shame me into not asking questions. I'm not unpatriotic. I'm actually pretty patriotic. Mm-hmm. And I'm an American. My family's been here hundreds of years. I have every right to ask these questions. And if you don't like it, up yours. I don't care whether you like it or not. And by the way, if you don't like the questions, then why not just reveal the information? Why are you hiding it? If there's no crime there, we could solve. If you're mad that I'm a conspiracy theorist, okay, I get it. There are conspiracy theories, and some of them are stupid. I think the Earth is round. That's my opinion. But
Sure, Tucker.
but sure, no, I know. I've just revealed myself to be a CIA operative. But the point is, like, we can settle this debate by declassifying, and you're telling me we can't because national security, that was 24 years ago, and it's a completely different world. There's only one government on the planet that has the same leader as it did 24 years ago. Big country, and that's Russia.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, and you're worried about exposing, like, I don't understand what the concern is. Well, I actually do have some idea what the concern is.
What do you think that is?
I'm not, I don't know it, so I'm not going to say it. But I mean, I think there's some darkness at the heart there.
Sure.
And if there isn't, prove that there isn't. It's really simple. Just declassify it and get me those documents.
It is, and they should. We have a right to know. Everyone.
Absolutely.
It has been way too long, and there is too many.
I saw your interview with Kurt Weldon the other day. It was a great interview, and I mean, he was angry, and you could tell they ruined his career. They killed. He thinks you could tell that he thinks that our government or our agencies had something to do there, or they're covering something up. By the way, he had talked about Osama bin Laden being in Iran, and we had the intelligence to know he was there. We were sending kids to die in Afghanistan for it. And you had talked about Alex Jones predicting it 2 months before it happened. And
yes,
you know how hard it is to find that video?
Well, it's extraordinary. And, I criticized Alex Jones for years. I criticized anybody who questioned 9/11 for years. I was definitely part of the problem. And it pains me to admit it, but it's true. And also it's on tape. So I can't deny it.
Yeah.
But
Caught in the act.
But I came around to my current view based on evidence. And I think that if you call something in detail like 9/11 on video, we can prove that you said it. In the case of Alex, we can prove it. I think we need to stop right now, just stop and find out how that happened. Like, how did you know that? Mm-hmm. No one else I'm aware of said that. You said it. And the FBI never even bothered to interview Alex Jones. And instead, they tried to destroy him. Yeah. Why wouldn't you interview him? If you're trying to figure out how 9/11 happened and this guy is predicted it, he's your first call. Like, how'd you know that? No, they never did.
Yeah.
So it tells you.
At bare minimum, investigate him. Like, maybe he had something to do with it.
Well, that's exactly right. Thank you. Exactly.
Hell of a coincidence. It's a hell of a coincidence. Hey, I just predicted this entire event. Here it is.
Well, if you Google Alex Jones 9/11 prediction, you have to go through like 3 pages of Google to find the video. Now, you guys may have found it faster than I did, but if I Google it on my phone, you have to go to the 3rd page of Google to find the video. It's pretty crazy.
And thank heaven for X, which for video is just a much better search because it's not suppressed in the way that Google is. It's not completely controlled by the intel agencies like a lot of the big search engines are. So Wikipedia is,
that's right.
but the point is, the new media, while flawed, they're not perfect. I'm part of it. I'm not perfect. I made a lot of mistakes. But in general, I think they're more honest, or they're trying harder to be honest. They're less controlled, at least right now. I think things will change. They have to figure out a way. If you're running an enterprise like this, which is to say the Western world, which is badly run, only a few people profit from it, and a lot of people are dying from mismanagement, misrule, you have to find a way to control information. And, guys like Rogan, sites like X, you have to shut them down or control them. And you're seeing that with the attacks on Joe Rogan. Mm-hmm. All these people you've never even heard of coming out of a lot of whom are not even American, are like, oh, we can't have Joe Rogan saying these irresponsible things. It's like, right. Okay. I get it. I see what's going on now.
Yeah. They attacked Russell Brand the same way when he started getting a little more enlightened.
Well, they're trying to put Russell Brand in prison.
Right. Now. Absolutely. Yeah.
He's got a hearing next week in England. They're going to try and put him in jail on, quote, rape charges from 1999, 26 years ago. This woman decided, oh yeah, I totally forgot, until he started criticizing the UK government that he raped me.
Yeah. By the way, 20 years ago, you raped me, didn't you?
Well, and he even said, he was like, look, 20 something years ago, I was famous. I was an actor. I didn't have any problem. I didn't have to rape anyone.
Yeah.
Right.
And Russell Brand has made, he even admitted, I've made lots of mistakes. I've done crazy things, but this is not something that I've ever would have done or had to do, you know?
Exactly. But also, I mean, if you are the victim of a violent sex crime, you have a moral obligation to report it because the person who committed it could be victimizing others.
Correct.
So I would say shame on the person who accused him. That person's not above criticism. So you're saying this guy raped you, but for 26 years you let him roam the earth and rape other people? Because why? Because you're embarrassed? Like what?
Yeah.
So no, I mean it's what they did to Assange. Obviously, it's a mistake to take this seriously. They convinced this poor woman she was raped. There was a whole effort to find women in the UK who would say they've been raped by Russell Brand. It was a coordinated effort with a bunch of newspapers and television stations and the UK government, because Russell Brand was criticizing the people in charge. And they did the exact same thing to Julian Assange. He comes out, he embarrasses the intel agencies. All of a sudden, there's some Swedish girl accusing him of rape.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Rape and child porn are two of the hardest things.
Exactly. Exactly.
If you, and it's bad that, because, you know, censorship is one thing, to be put on trial and to be told that new to you that you're being told that you've committed these crimes so long ago, or even now, it's so hard to prove your innocence. It's almost impossible.
Well, you know, you can even prove your innocence, and people have been brainwashed. Look at Kyle's case. I mean, it's on video, and you should see the shitstorms we cause when we post them on our social media platforms. It's pretty funny. We started just trolling them now with pictures of Kyle shooting machine guns and things like that. It's a lot of fun.
Well, a man fighting back is the most threatening thing to them, of course, and they want to train you to take any amount of abuse up into death, up into the murder of your family. Mm-hmm. You know, they want you to be helpless. They want to disarm you, not just by taking your guns away, but by taking your spirit away. And so someone like Kyle, who acted in self-defense to protect himself as a minor from a child molester, you know, they've got to crush you.
Yeah. Well, what blows my mind is how far they'll draw that out to be. I mean, they'll bring race into it. They'll bring religion into it. They'll bring just standard violence into it and mass shooter instincts. You know what I mean? And that had nothing to do with any of it. But people will take it there. You know what I mean? Social media will take it there. And people are so out for blood that they will just compare it to anything.
Kyle, have you compared the amount of death threats you get to the amount of death threats Tucker gets?
Oh, I don't even want to know how many death threats Tucker gets. You still carrying that J-frame, Tucker?
No, I've got actually that's in my desk drawer. I'm a revolver man. I know everyone looks down on me for that. But I have a lot of different guns, and I love the Staccato. I like the Glock 19 actually, but you know, if it comes right down to it, I just want a gun that won't go off by accident, does not strike or fire. No offense, Sean.
So not a stick, right?
So he's really calling out my 320s right now.
No, I know. I'm sorry. Everyone loves striker fire except me, but I'm just too old for it. I like a hammer. I like the 1911, or I like a revolver. But mostly, I just don't want to. Kyle's the only person maybe here who can say this firsthand, but like if you're under enormous stress, if you had to use a firearm in self-defense, I would hate to screw it up. So I like a revolver.
Simplicity.
I like it. What's your favorite firearm that you own?
Oh, it's so embarrassing.
Oh, come on.
I'll tell you my favorite firearm I own. You know, I have a lot of shotguns, family shotguns or whatever. My actual in real life, my favorite is it's super impressive, but it's the gun that I hunt with almost always, which is an AYA. It's a Spanish side-by-side shotgun in 28 gauge, which is what I shoot. Double trigger straight stock, 30-inch barrel. It's an amazing gun. Amazing. But
culture.
But my favorite real gun, like normal gun that I like, not for hunting, is a Rossi lever action 38 357. And it's got a gate load, not the tube load. And my brother gave it to me for Christmas about 15 years ago. I think it cost $450.
It's an R92.
Yep.
And this gun is just Brazilian made, you know, cheap wood, badly finished stocks. It is just a tack driver. I mean, it's insane. Out to 50, maybe 70 yards. it with iron sights. I haven't put anything on it. I shoot mostly 38, but sometimes 357. But 38, you get more in there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can knock a golf ball off the top of a beer bottle at 30 feet with this thing. I don't know why. It just fits me right. And I personally think 357 in a carbine is one of the most fun because it's a real round. I mean, it's got a thump to it, but there's no recoil at all. It's pretty cheap. It's just fun.
When it's right, it's right.
When it's right, it's right.
Dang right.
Have you tried to suppress it yet? You need to thread the barrel and get a suppressor.
You know, it's funny. I have no suppressors at all.
What?
And, I know. And I have pretty bad hearing loss, unfortunately, in my right ear. I'm left-handed, so I mount on the left.
Oh, yeah.
And my whole childhood, my father would always say, just put a Marlboro filter in your ear, in the opposite ear.
Here, son.
And so I'd always put a cigarette filter in my ear when I was a kid, like in a duck blind or whatever. And it really affected my hearing. And I wish we'd had suppressors, but I don't want to give the government the right to come into my house without a warrant. So I haven't bought a suppressor.
We're really hoping with the new administration that we can get suppressors off the NFA. There's no reason for them to be on an NFA list. I mean, we can buy them just like we buy a firearm. There's no reason for that.
It's insane. And they're not, unless you're shooting subsonic 22, they're not silenced. Okay.
No,
and I don't think the anti-gun people know anything about guns at all. They don't know anything about anything. Well, and they have very unhappy personal lives, but like they think I don't know what they think, but suppressors are to protect hearing. And I wish I'd had them as a kid.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So Tucker, I want to jump back real quick and just ask you a simple question. It can be yes or no. You can dive into it.
Uh-oh.
But did Epstein kill himself?
No, absolutely not.
The question we need to know.
And by the way, I thought he did. And then I got a call from his brother, Mark, his only brother. In fact, his only living relative. He had no children and his parents were gone. And I spent a couple of years talking to Mark about it. And the evidence is literally overwhelming. In fact, it's conclusive that he was killed in his cell by another inmate. And the question is, how was that allowed to happen? And of course, there's never been an investigation. Attorney General Barr, who was the Attorney General in the first Trump term, lied and worked to cover up the murder. I don't know why. But if you read his account of it in his book, he lies about it. He absolutely lies about it. It's like, oh, no, it's totally, whatever. It's fine. It's not fine. Who has the power to murder a federal inmate in U.S. government lockup in Manhattan in the secure wing?
And nothing was done.
Nothing get done about it.
Nothing was done. And the truth is, it's scary if you think about it. And I know that Epstein's brother, because I talked to him a lot about it, it worries him. Like, who has the power? Who has the power to murder an inmate in federal lockup in the secure wing? I mean, like, that's true power. And whoever's the power to do that can certainly murder you.
Yeah.
So I think that discourages questions about it. But it happened.
Well, that's the issue.
Yeah,
How long will we be strong-armed into, if anyone says anything, your life is at risk?
What? Who do you think is, and I know you don't like saying things that you don't know the facts about, but who do you think they are? The people that are in charge, the people that are in charge of these agencies that are covering this stuff up. Is it the CIA? Is it another agency? Is it some globalist that with a lot of money? Who do you think they are?
I can only speak of individuals. I think that, I think we overstate the relevance of borders. I think that I travel a lot internationally, including this week. And, I travel a lot. And the one thing you notice is that, there are connections, there are financial connections, cultural connections between the most powerful people in the world in different countries. And so I don't think it's just, and the other thing I would say is to say it's the CIA or the U.S. government. I mean, these are huge organizations.
Sure.
It's certain people and organizations can act independently of the organization. But in the case of Epstein, I am totally convinced that the Attorney General of the United States helped cover up that crime. Mm-hmm. And I've said that many, many times. He's gotten mad at me about it. He's never agreed to an interview on the subject, which I would love to do. The former Attorney General Barr, who was Attorney General twice, by the way. He's Republican.
Right.
But his father I guess, worked with Epstein, which is amazing.
Oh,
Yeah. So I don't know if that's relevant or not. All I know is that he promised an investigation. That investigation has never happened. 6 or 7, 8 years later, whatever it's been. Yeah, the whole thing was a scam. He was murdered. And by the way, again, he had no family other than his brother, and he had no friends willing to like demand an investigation because he was so discredited. But it's clear that at least one government played, or people in at least one government played a role in that murder. Obviously.
why do you think they took him out?
Well, I mean, he was in jail and he was going to go on trial.
Yep. He was going to be put on stand. And
Right. Jack Ruby died days before his second trial of an incredibly fast-moving cancer after telling his jailer that he had been injected with cancer cells. He died of very fast-moving lung cancer.
What?
Very fast. He died within like 2 weeks, and right before his trial. So it's pretty obvious what that was to me. I think it was clear that Jack Ruby is the key to the Kennedy assassination, the guy who murdered the assassin. Obviously, he's part of the conspiracy, and it's pretty clear to me that he was killed. And I would, I would say the same thing about Epstein for the same reasons. You don't want him to talk. He knows a lot.
They haven't killed Maxwell yet, though. Is there? I mean, and she doesn't seem to be talking. They haven't released any of those lists. Do you think? Do you think she's?
I think she's at risk.
She's agreed to do an interview with me, but
Really?
we haven't been able to get through the prison authorities to actually do it yet. So I'm hoping that we will.
Yeah.
Very, very much. I mean, I don't know what she would say. I know a bunch of people involved in that story, and I think the Epstein story is both more shocking and less shocking. Like, I will just say this, to be fair, I know a lot of people who knew Jeffrey Epstein and who had dinner with him. And most of them are just sort of normal people who thought he was interesting or heard he had like a bunch of interesting people at his house for dinner on Fifth Avenue in New York, and they went. Not everyone who knew Epstein, I never met him personally, but not everyone who knew Epstein was like involved in child trafficking or something. But he was working for intel agencies, and that's obvious. I mean, it's like flat out statement of fact. He was working for the U.S. government, and I think at least one other. So
yeah, completely unrelated to Epstein. Obviously, you doing what you do, and you're a man of a lot of information and resources. Do you ever worry about yourself? Doing what you do. I'm sure you have security and all that stuff. Do you ever worry about anyone, coming to you and you're kind of at risk if you kind of think about it in a way. You might know.
I never do worry about it, to be totally honest with you. I mean, my kids are grown and I've had a great life, and I say my prayers, and we all go, and I'm not too worried about it. I'm almost never worried.
When you have that,
I
you have that Rossi too.
Yeah, the Rossi to rifle man.
Can I just say one thing, since you're gun guys?
Absolutely.
I like handguns. I have a handgun range at my house, 50-yard, just shooting bowling pins, having fun. But I just don't believe in handguns. Like, if I ever had like an actual problem, I would want a long gun.
No,
I would.
To me,
the truck right
that's
there.
ask Kyle.
To me, a handgun is what you use to get to your long gun. In my head, that's
yes.
It's when your long gun goes down.
Right. I think that's the way to think about it. But I see all these people, like a lot of people have bought firearms in the past 10 years, really, or since BLM, 5 years. And they all seem to be convinced that having like a 9mm, with a staggered magazine or whatever, I just don't believe in it. I would rather have.
Well, it's just because it's concealable.
Well,
I understand.
It helps to have some things, but a lot of these people, even though they have all these fancy things, they can't even use it appropriately.
Right.
And that's where I started to get into the politics of that, just because people have 1,000 guns, all this ammo, all these attachments, and they can't walk through a doorway without pointing at the friends.
No, but that's why I carry a revolver. I mean, I've shot guns my whole life. I mean, I grew up in a gun family. We get guns for Christmas every year.
And there you are.
I've never not shot guns, and I don't feel qualified to use a semi-automatic handgun under stress. That's why I use a revolver.
It's understandable.
Well, Tucker,
even though I shoot them all the time, and you know what I mean?
Kyle, how hard was it to operate that Smith & Wesson MP15 Sport under stress?
Jesus.
Sorry.
So Tucker, I'm now a firearms instructor. If you ever want to come down here to Pensacola, I'll give you a free class on how to shoot a pistol.
Oh, I know how to shoot a pistol. No, it's not that. It's not, obviously, I have a lot of pistols and I shoot pistols a lot. It's just that the stress part of it, I don't know. I mean, you've been through it, but most people have not, and including me. And I don't know. I have no idea what kind of adrenaline surge might accompany a real threat. And I just know for a fact that I can operate a wheel gun under pressure.
100%.
It's just one motion.
Oh, there you go.
So, Tucker, we're running up on that time of the podcast. I want to ask you one final question. Should machine guns be legal for American citizens?
Well, all guns are machines, so I'm not exactly sure what you mean by machine gun. You mean fully automatic?
Fully automatic machine guns.
Yeah, I mean, I actually have a fair amount of experience shooting fully automatic rifles in 7.62 by 39 and 5.56, and I think that they're totally overrated. And actually,
they're fun.
They're a lot
at least I was never in the military, so I wasn't trained to fire one, but I have fired them a lot. And the muzzle rise is so crazy on those things that I actually think you know, if people like opened up on full auto and just like drained the mag in 2 seconds, you'd probably have fewer casualties.
Right, I agree.
You'd be trimming the trees with that thing after like 2 shots, like you're pointing straight up.
Yeah. On range, it's a lot of fun, but it gets expensive quick.
It does get expensive quick. It is a lot of fun.
Hey, man, can I shoot a mag through that?
Right.
Here's
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Here's $60. D60 goes to drain. Yep.
Cool. Well, Tucker, thank you so much for joining us. Had a great conversation. Is there anything you want to add before we jump off here?
No, but I just want to thank you for having me. That was super fun. It's nice to talk to normal people. I have to say.
Normal's a stretch for us.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in a relative to what's happening around us.
Absolutely.
I'm grateful. Thank you.
Come to Pensacola. We'll let you hang out with a lot of normal people. You know,
Autism.
Yeah.
normal people.
I love it up there. Thank you, guys.
Appreciate you a bunch.
Thank you, Tucker.